Hello there, and welcome to the Sela Entrepreneur Podcast, where we take a look at doing online business a little differently for women over 50. I'm your host, Marta Gertson, entrepreneur and business owner since 2008, and for far too long, I struggled with trying to figure out what I wanted to be when my business and I grew up. I was tired of buying all the courses and downloading all the freebies, all in the hope that the answer I was longing for would suddenly appear. Turns out, clarity doesn't come in an instant. It's a journey of discovery and finding answers layer by layer. As I took action, I learned what type of work I really loved to do, who I had fun serving, and the problems I loved to help them solve. That clarity gave me the confidence to start designing a simple, sustainable business that I could steward well, and I'd love to help you do the same. If you're ready to find the clarity you're longing for, then you're in the right place. Let's take this journey of discovery together. Is it possible to plan your clarity journey? I think so, at least to a certain extent, because once you start your clarity journey, you really don't know where it's going to take you. You rarely have control over the exact steps you're going to take to get to the point where you understand what you're supposed to do, where you're supposed to take your business, where you're supposed to grow, what changes you're supposed to make. So while I think it's possible, I don't think you have complete control over the journey. And that's actually a good thing. When we're struggling with our clarity, we're struggling with getting a real clear vision of what we're supposed to be doing, what we're supposed to be focusing on, where we're supposed to take our business. It's a discouraging place to be at times. And I know for years I lived in that messy middle of not knowing what I was supposed to be doing, other than the fact that I knew something had to change. You get to this point where you're on the edge of this cliff and you are really having to decide, are you going to go down the other side and just go for it? Or are you just going to take a step back and say, no, I don't want to do this? And that's actually an exciting place to be. It's a frustrating place to be, but it's also an exciting place to be because there is so much potential and possibility in front of you. And at that point, we have to decide, are we going to let our fear and frustration take over and win the day? Or are we going to push past and through that fear and go on this journey of discovery? This idea has been something I've been working through in my own clarity journey because I'm still going on my clarity journey. But some of the things that I've been seeing out on the trail as my dog and I go out and explore, and what we've been seeing on these trails has brought this idea of the messy middle of making that decision to move forward or to step back, and what gets us to the point of making that decision. I've been seeing a lot of really interesting changes out on the trails that my dogs and I take a walk on, and specifically recently the trails and the locations my dog Mochi and I have been visiting lately. That there's been so much change and some pretty significant topography changes from the harsh Oregon coast winter that we've had. After one particular walk, I actually went back to the car and turned on the voice app on my phone and just started rambling off some ideas. And a title that came to mind was Obstacles, Decisions, and Clarity. Oh my. Because there was so much that I was seeing on the trail that was triggering so many thoughts about our journey as entrepreneurs and this clarity journey that so many of us are on. What triggered some of these thoughts and this title, I knew there was a podcast in there somewhere, was that we visited a local beach. And the change that I saw was so drastic this time. And we hadn't been there really for much of the winter because in winter, our tide times change so much that it's always high tide when we tend to go out. So we finally got out there at a low tide time, and there's three entrances to this beach. And really only one was accessible at this point. It's almost like the headlands had been shaved off into a cliff. And so the other entrances to the beach with the stairs leading up to it, now they were significant drops of some of them looking like 4 or 5 feet. The middle one had access, and so we could actually walk down it and make our way safely. And then there's another trail that we like to visit. It's a huge lake, and on one side you can hike in about 3 miles, and it's a 3-mile hike back. The other side, we went this time to go explore, and I wanted to go over there and just kind of see where it was because during this time of year, often that side is completely flooded out as the lake overflows its banks and completely hides the trail. We'd had a few days break and we went down to explore the trail. Thought, oh, wow, we might be able to get down there. Further we got, and all of a sudden, nope, it was completely flooded out. And I really did not want to wade in my boots. And Mochi would have probably had to go swimming to get to the other side of the trail. So we decided not to take that. And earlier, I did an episode called Thoughts from the Trail, and it was about this exact trail and the destruction that had happened that was rather jarring and shocking, but the incredible growth I was seeing coming out of that all of those fallen trees and the changing of the trail and all the winter storm damage of all that had done, but then also the thriving life that I was seeing as a result as we moved from winter into spring and then into summer. And so when I was seeing that again this time on different trails, because we have had some pretty significant winter storms here, which is not unusual. We've had some flooding, which is very much not unusual. Here in Oregon, we are green for a reason because we get quite a bit of rain, at least in the western part of Oregon. And when you look at all that destruction, knowing, if you're aware, you know that all of those changes and that hardship that those trails are going through, there is the promise of life. It's opening up new possibilities. It's changing things. We think of winter as a time of where nature is dormant, where animals hibernate, where humans, the idea of hygge has come up a lot in recent years, of being cozy and wrapping ourselves in blankets and hot drinks and cozying up by the fire with a book, which is amazing. And if we can do that, absolutely. But there comes a time too when we are in the midst of struggling to find out what's next. This season that we often enter into is not always a calm one. It's not always a cozy up by the fire moment. When we are digging through the dirt, trying to find the treasure of what our experience is supposed to be, what our vision is, what our clarity journey is supposed to be like, it can be an extremely frustrating and scary at times place to be because we feel like we're putting on all this effort for naught, that we can't figure it out. All we can do is like where I was for many years, is something has got to change. This isn't working. I don't know what to do. I'm not fulfilled. I don't feel like I am fulfilling my purpose or my calling. I'm not living up to my potential. This is actually amazingly a beautiful place to be. But it's hard to see that in the midst of the hardness and the frustration and all the damage that we're seeing. Because when we are taking the courses, when we are hiring the coaches, when we are downloading freebie after freebie, when you're listening to podcast after podcast, even this one, if you are just getting more and more layers of confusion built on top of your already layers of confusion, this is a hard spot to be in. I have a client in my mastermind who's also gone through my business clarity breakthrough program, who we have talked about what she could be doing and where she felt called probably for over a year now. And I will tell you that when you get clear, when you have that kernel of clarity, that's pretty much immediately where excitement enters and so does fear. And she fought against this. She'll be the first one to admit it. And then finally, when she was ready to take on ownership of this glimpse of a dream that she had been given, she was ready. But there was a lot of layers she had to unpeel during that journey. There was a lot of trail damage. There was a lot of topography changing on the headland of the beach as she went through a bit of a winter. She went through a time of discovering and digging deep and trying things that weren't working. And again, this is an amazingly beautiful place to be because that means you are ready. You are ready to grow. You are ready to dig deep and find those answers that you're looking for. When I finally realized that I had outgrown my business, when I realized that I could actually take the two businesses that I had been running and combine them into one, it really and truly felt like I was coming home to me, coming home to who I was called to be, coming home in a way that I could serve the people that I was called to serve in a way that I was called to serve them with the message, with the hope, with the finding the clarity and putting together the tools and resources to help them find that clarity. But there was a lot that I had to go through to get to that point. I had to witness the change in topography. I had to stand on the edge of that cliff and decide, am I going all in? Am I going to take that next step in faith, or am I going to step back and push it off a little bit longer or give up? And there's many times when fear wanted me to give up, and there were moments and there were seasons where I did give up, that I didn't think there was hope. I think if you talk to anybody that has gone through an intense clarity journey and they've really had to dig deep to find those answers, you will find there's a lot of debris and detritus that came along the way, a lot of missteps, a lot of traveling off the trail and wandering into the big mud puddles, or getting to the point where they couldn't take that next step because there was, just like on that beach, there was this used to be a trail there, but now it's been cut off. That door has been closed. And so you have to backtrack and go back and go, no, this is what I do know. This is what I'm anchored in. I know what's going on here. So now I know I need to step back. That maybe that was a bright, shiny object, or that was just fear taking me down the wrong path. I needed to backtrack and go find the opening to the beach that is ready for me to take that next step. Maybe you've walked down that trail. You've walked down this trail before, you've explored it, and you've gone before, and you know there's beauty and there's stuff to explore on the other side, but there's flooding in the way and you can't get to it. And you have to decide, do I want to plow my way through it? Or do I want to wait until that water's gone down a little bit? And clarity is a journey that is going to take you in unexpected places. And that's why I think you can plan your journey and the steps you are going to take to go find that clarity. And you're going to make the decision to go find it. But your exact path and what steps are going to be required of you to get that journey, I don't think you can plan. And I think that's actually a good thing, because if we knew what that journey is going to look like, one, we probably wouldn't take it because it's not always easy. Can be very challenging. Two, where is the joy of discovery when you already know where you're headed? And I think the clarity journey is a journey of beautiful discovery. Not that it's super easy all the time, but there is beauty in finding the treasure, of digging in the dirt and finding the treasure that we know is buried there. So when you are to the point where you are on that edge of that cliff, when you are exploring the trails and you see that the topography has changed and you find that there's one entrance into that beach, or you know that if you wait just a little bit longer, that trail will no longer be flooded out and you can go back and explore that trail and see what happened to it and what all the beautiful things that are coming as a result of all that change, of all the wind and the rain that caused trees to fall down. But you're seeing that incredible growth. Once you're on the other side of making that decision, you can see the growth. Once you get to the other side of that trail, once you've given it time for the flooding to recede, for the trail to be a little bit safer, because we don't want to be walking under all those fallen trees that aren't all that steady anymore. Once you get past that, you can look back or you can look around, you can raise your head up and realize there is beauty to be found here. And again, that is so hard to see in the messy middle. And I just want to encourage you, because here we are, winter is starting to wind down, hopefully, and we're entering into spring. I already see the tulip leaves growing up out of my front yard and in my garden bed on the side of the house. My flowering fruit tree always blooms a little too early for its own good, but it's already starting to bloom. I have snapdragons that overwintered and are starting to see little flowers pop out. There is promise of spring. There is beauty in the midst of a barren tree, of a garden bed that was put dormant to get ready for winter. There is beauty on the other side of struggle. And it takes us going through that struggle, through that messy middle, in order to see that beauty. And the clarity journey of getting a vision, a clear vision of what's possible in your business, it takes going through the hard steps. It takes going through and asking the hard questions. It takes going through and getting help and asking for advice, seeking wise counsel. It takes hours in prayer and a lot of times takes gallons of tears. But I can promise you and I can tell you that the other side is worth it. get through that hard time, that frustrating time, that clarity journey, that confidence that you see on the other side, your ability to take action, knowing what's a bright, shiny object, knowing what is a distraction, and also then knowing where do you need to go? Or if you're still unsure, knowing how to figure it out and where to get the advice you need to make that right decision. When you're getting ready to make that decision, and it is a decision, and it's a decision that you are making that I am going to figure it out no matter what, and I am going to find the answer, and it is taking action by taking that next step in faith. And I do believe the clarity journey is one of faith. I do think it is saying, I am trusting. And for those of us who are believers that are saying, Lord, I am trusting you that I am going to take this next step. I'm going to take one and you're going to provide the next one. So when you're ready to take that step, there's things that I want you to remember. Clarity comes through taking action. It doesn't come through just thinking about it. Clarity sometimes is delayed. A book that I highly recommend is a book by Gary Barkalow called It's Your Call. And in that book, he talks about a lot of times we are given a vision that the Lord will show us what's possible or an idea he has for us. And then he pulls that vision back a little bit because you aren't ready for it. There's some things that you need to learn. There's some things you need to figure out. There's things that he needs to teach you and show you. So sometimes we see that vision, but we know we have some work to do to be ready for that vision, for that possibility. And that is a lot of what the clarity journey is. It is getting ready to take the clarity journey and accept what you are given, what that vision is you are given, that purpose that you finally understand where you're going and be ready to accept it. Because clarity, again, is a journey. It is about peeling back layer after layer until we get to the core, until we get to the heart of where we are right now and getting really honest about it and saying, this is where I want to go. And that place is a place of clarity, of clear vision, of direction, and of confidence. And so that hard winter, the hard winter of the clarity journey is worth it. And I can promise you it is worth it because it took me years to travel through that winter. It took years of looking at my mom. My poor mom heard a lot about my journey in those stuck years. Say, Mom, something's got to change. And she says, you've been saying that for a long time. When are you going to make the change? I said, I don't know. And it wasn't until I was ready and made the decision that something's got to change and I'm going to figure it out. That's when things started to change. And this is a topic we'll be talking about later. What gets us to that moment of making that decision? It's a topic that's been on my mind a lot. I know the things in my business that I decided and did and what a change it made in my business and other things that I waffle on and ask questions and feel like I need more research on. What is it that gets us to that point of making a decision of that this is what I'm going to do? I asked a few ladies who have gone through my business clarity breakthrough program and asked, so what got you to the point of making that decision of wanting to tackle this idea of clarity and vision for your business? And why did you want to come work with me through the breakthrough? And they all said a variation of the same thing. I got to the edge of this cliff. I got to this edge of either I'm gonna have to go for it or I have to give up or I need to completely change my expectations. And what gets us to that decision point is something that I find very interesting and I would like to explore more. I'd love to hear from you. What gets you to the point where you make a decision that you're ready to make a change and you've decided? It's a big word that I've been wrestling with for the last 6 or 7 months. What is that decision and how do we get to that decision point of taking the next step in our clarity journey? And it is a journey of faith, and deciding is a decision of faith. It is a faith-based decision that you're going to take action. So all of this to say, I want you to be encouraged. If you are in that messy middle, if you are struggling to figure out what to do with your business, with how you operate in your business, trying to figure out what you're supposed to do in your business, there's so many of us that have been there. So many of us that have gone through that messy middle, that hard winter, and now we're seeing the beauty on the other side and we're seeing the growth. We're seeing what that winter caused and brought up and uprooted that now we can walk through and walk past and look back and say, I get it. I understand why I had to go through that to get to where I am now, to understand where I'm going. And I appreciate the journey so much more. I appreciate the clarity I have so much more because I went through that hard winter. I went through that difficult journey. So, all that to say again, please be encouraged. I hear women admitting that they are frustrated, but they don't know what to do about it. And I'd love to be able to help all of you because I know what it's like to be stuck in that messy middle. I really, really do. So don't give up. Know that the messy middle is hard, but it is worth it. The clarity journey is worth it. And when you're ready, and if you think I can help you, I would love to talk to you about the Business Clarity Breakthrough Program. This is something that I took myself through. It's something I've taken the women in my mastermind through. And the progress and the changes I have seen as a result of going through this are amazing. It has been so fun for me to watch the women as they go through the program, get the clarity they're looking for, and see them coming home to themselves, of seeing the beauty on the other side of their hard winter, of making the positive changes to go serve in the way they're called to serve, the people they're called to serve, in the way that really suits them. It's been amazing to watch. If you would like more information, please visit SelaStudios.co/breakthrough, or you can send me a DM through Facebook or Instagram. The links will be down below in the show notes. So keep your head up, keep taking one step after the other, and look at planning your clarity journey this year. What are you going to do? What are the steps you are going to decide to take today, big or small? And small is easier to take where you get momentum. What is one small step you can take to start your clarity journey? Until next time. Thanks for joining me. I hope you found some clarity or an aha moment that inspires you to take some action today. Before you go, could I ask a favor? I would really appreciate it if you could take a few seconds and leave a review of this show in the Apple Podcast app. Your review really does make an impact and helps spread the word about this show and gets it in the hands of other women who are looking to build simple and sustainable businesses of their own. Until next time.